In the early 1800s, America was still a very new country, and nobody was taking us seriously. The British kept commandeering our ships, stealing our spies, and forcing our sailors into their navy, an act which is called impressment. These press gangs, as they were called, were brutal and violent. England needed soldiers to fight against Napoleon, so this is what they resorted to. England also decided at one point to take back Vermont, but gave it back when we threw a fit. Additionally, the Spanish suddenly decided to cut us off from trade along the Mississippi River, which made no sense at all. That is our river, but we really couldn't do much about it, and the Spanish knew it. We also kept having our ships attacked by African pirates. Nobody in the world was taking us seriously as a nation. So in response, we decided to pass the Embargo Act of 1807, which closed ports to England and France in order to hurt them economically. Of course, we moved under the assumption that England and France would actually care and that we could take care of ourselves. As it turned out, neither of these things were true. So we turned the act around so that we just couldn't import goods from those countries, but they could still receive our goods. James Madison came into the presidency at this time and inherited these problems, so he decided to act. The people wanted a war, so he would give it to them. He declared the War of 1812 against England and sent an army to invade Canada. We burned down the British Parliament located there, which made England quite mad. In response, they pushed us out of Canada and took Michigan and the Great Lakes area. This made us mad, so we went to push them out again. They had 2 Navy ships sitting on Lake Erie, so we took a rowboat, stuck a cannon in it, and somehow managed to sink one of their ships. With this, they decided to back off that area, but instead decided to strike our capital in retaliation. As the British are marching towards Washington, Madison orders that all the important documents be removed for their safety, including the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and George Washington's letters, and then he removed himself from the situation so he could figure out just what to do. Meanwhile, 3 lines of men try to defend the capital, but they are far too inexperienced. On August 24, 1814, the British roll over their defenses and then rampage through and burn down the White House. That night, all hope seemed lost for America. But fortunately, what one might call an act of God was underway. An insane hurricane suddenly decided to hit Washington, D.C. the very night that the British had taken it over. And in addition to the hurricane, a tornado also appeared and ripped through the town. The area just doesn't really get tornadoes, and hurricanes are rare. They definitely do not occur at the same time. This natural phenomena put out all the flames and wiped out more of the British soldiers than any the fighting had so far, and in the morning when it was all over, they pulled out of Washington and set sail for Baltimore. They figured that if they could take that wealthy town, then the nation would be defeated, and they were probably right. Madison returned to D.C. and held a Senate meeting in a hotel and a cabinet meeting in the post office, refusing to relocate the capital. We believed that Baltimore would be attacked because we knew that the city had given Britain quite a bit of grief with its privateers. These meetings determined that Samuel Smith would lead the Baltimore military and command Fort McHenry, which was the sole defense of Baltimore. If the British destroyed this strong point, then the city would be taken. In preparation for battle, we sunk ships in the mouth of the harbor so the British couldn't sail through, and we armed the fort with cannons and weapons. The British shot cannons at the fort all day and all night long. They even managed to hit our gunpowder arsenal, which held 250,000 pounds of powder, and should have blown us to bits, but for some unknown reason the cannon just bounced off and didn't explode. When the morning came, we raised a brand new, clean flag to show that we were still fighting. Francis Scott Key was watching from one of the British ships as a prisoner, and at this time wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, which later became our national anthem. With the sign of the American flag, the British decided that they could not break through, and they backed off. While this was happening on the ocean, there was also a group of British soldiers coming to attack Baltimore on land, but we held them off successfully, and they retreated along with their navy. By this time, both America and England are sick of fighting, so we meet in Belgium to discuss peace treaties. The Treaty of Ghent was signed on December 24, 1814 to end the War of 1812. However, before anyone knew that the war was actually over, the British military in America was already on their way to attack New Orleans. Andrew Jackson was the military commander assigned to defend the city, and he managed to scrape up an army of 4,000 troops for defense. The British first tried to attack with artillery, but to no avail. Then a Sir Edward Pakenham, leader of the British troops, stooped in with reinforcements. However, he has an overly complicated plan and everything backfires. Supplies were forgotten and several of his forces got lost downriver, but despite these problems he still tried to attack. The American force stood strong and fought mightily under Jackson's leadership. We defeated them swiftly. Within 20 minutes all of the British generals and commanders went down, leading to the absolute disarray of the British military. in just a short time, more than 2,000 troops on the British side were either dead or injured, while less than 20 were down on the American side. Because of this, Andrew Jackson became as renowned as George Washington and was nicknamed Old Hickory. Finally, February rolled around and news of the treaty and of the victory at New Orleans hit Washington and the rest of the nation. With this, American pride, virtue, and purity abounded. Everyone was proud to be an American, and with the victory of this war, we were officially established as a respected, independent republic in the eyes of the world.